Most people spend their lives wondering what would happen if they actually chased the thing that they're passionate about. Today's guest didn't just wonder, he actually took the leap. Talon Sei walked away from a career in IT to pursue YouTube full time. And 10 years later, that decision has turned into over 500,000 YouTube subscribers, over multiple channels, and a body of work that spans through van life, adventure, outdoor culture, EDC, firearms, and even storytelling across the whole US. But this conversation isn't just about YouTube or building an audience. It's about risk, identity, burnout, community, and what it really means to build a life around the things that genuinely excite you. In this episode, we dive behind the why of Talon Sei. Let's get into it. So most people who are listening are probably working a job that they either hate or wish that they could leave so they could pursue their dreams. And you did that by leaving your IT job to literally go all in on YouTube and have a massive following of, I think, over 500,000 subscribers and multiple channels. Take me all the way back. Like, how did you make that decision to take that essential leap of faith?
So when I started making videos, I never planned on if you told me 10 years ago that I'd be doing what I'm doing now, I wouldn't believe you. I'm like, how does that even work? So I've always made videos for fun, and then with the YouTube partner program, like getting AdSense revenue from people watching your videos and ads that play, it basically just got to a point where I was making more money after my 9 to 5, and I was like, "Why don't I put full effort into this and just do it full time?" I mean, I had this opportunity where my fun, like, YouTube side hustle revenue, my income was surpassing my corporate level IT job, and that was the safest point for me to say, you know what? If I don't go after this opportunity, I'm probably going to regret it in the future. Like if I try to keep this balancing act. So yeah, I made the jump and haven't looked back since.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think that's every creator's dream, right? To be able to make enough money that you're making at your whatever your full-time job is, to make that decision of, oh, okay, if I go all in on this, like I can make even more than what I'm making.
Yeah, I mean, I the biggest thing for me is the freedom. Obviously, like with my style of content, I can kind of film wherever, whenever, and it just leaving a corporate job with a boss, it's the most freeing experience ever. And especially with like my style of travel, I can't imagine going back to doing what I did before.
Yeah. You hear that a lot from people that go from the corporate world to working for themselves. They're like, I wish I did it, sooner. Or I wish I left sooner.
Yeah, I would probably go completely broke before I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to IT. Like I'm driven enough to a point now where I'm like, I'm going to make something work. It may not be completely ideal where I'm just making YouTube videos, which is kind of what I've expanded into for the past like last year and then definitely this year. So the past 2 years, I'm shooting a lot more content for brands where I don't even put the content out to my audience. So I'm doing more like kind of freelance videography, social media management, and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's still all me. There's actually no other employees for my company, which is Psy Productions. So I'm a one man show, but I like the busyness and I like the juggling act because it keeps me motivated to keep going.
Yeah, I mean that's pure CEO mindset, right? Where you have to have hands in every part of your business, and then you essentially become an expert in every part of the business.
Yeah. I'm sure it could get to a point where, like, I know I could hire someone who shoots better videos than me, who edits better than I do, who communicates with brands and all of the communications I have on a daily basis. I could definitely hire like 3 people for those specific things, but I'm at the point where, like, I am comfortable with what I do, but I always say, like, when you're comfortable, you get complacent at the same time. So I'm like constantly pushing my comfort level of what I'm doing to try to take on more. And it's just ever evolving. Like I'm always trying something new for me personally and for people that I shoot for. So it's a nonstop hustle, but I love it.
Yeah, it's you always hear people that are, and we'll talk about YouTube here in a little bit deeper in a few, but people that work in the creative space, it's the dream for so many people. But when you actually get in it, you're working way more than a typical 9 to 5, 40-hour work week.
100%. Like, I was working roughly like a 40-hour work week before, and then after that job, I was putting in at least 4 hours, if not more than that, just doing my own thing. And nowadays, like, even when I'm not in front of a camera or at my computer editing, constantly on the phone, I'm constantly traveling, doing emails, networking at different events and stuff like that. So if you really tallied it up, I definitely work way more than I do now, but a lot of the stuff doesn't feel like work because I enjoy it.
It's passion. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were to go back and grab a drink at the bar with the version of Talon who still worked at IT, so you're looking at that guy, what would you tell him? Like, what advice would you give him at that point?
Oh man, that's such a good one. Obviously, like it sounds so cliche, but like obviously don't give up. Like I guess I would kind of share stories of like some of the biggest highlight things that I've accomplished in the past 10 years, before I went full time, I guess. So like 8 years. I would kind of explain like, hey, if you stay passionate and stay true to yourself, like you're going to have all of these opportunities. It may sound super far fetched that you get invited out to events by corporate level Toyota and Lexus, and you get to drive these brand new vehicles before anyone else does. Like that to me, it still sounds crazy to me today. Um, but just sharing experiences like that, I think I would probably say go all in sooner than later. Like if I could talk to high school self, I think my college level degrees and everything, it was important because you're still developing as a human at that point. So you need to learn how to communicate and how to network and um, all of the stuff I learned in IT. I mean, I don't use any of it anymore, but it just allows you the repetition of working, first of all. And then if you realize, like, hey, I don't really enjoy working for someone else, I guess I would say I wouldn't replace my college experience. So if I talked to myself in high school, I would be like, "Hey, you got crazy things coming. Pick up a camera sooner, like start making YouTube videos sooner." Obviously, things could be way different if I started earlier than I did, but I obviously don't regret anything so far.
I love that. What a great answer. Let's go a little bit deeper into YouTube. And first and foremost, I think I would not do you justice if I didn't say congratulations. To hit 10 years on anything, whether it's a corporate job or any job, is amazing. So congratulations, you just hit 10 years on YouTube.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks.
that was a pretty big video, and I know you said you were thinking about what would you say in that video years ago. So, like, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I saw I think Mr. Beast did a video like talking to himself 10 years in the future that just like automatically published. And that would be so cool from my perspective because I have no idea what I would have said to myself. Like, I guess early on, I never really cared about the numbers like followers and subscribers, and I still don't. But early on, I was probably thinking like, "Man, 1,000,000 subscribers, that sounds so cool, like, maybe I'll get there someday," and obviously, I'm not there, but I'm not worried about the numbers, so, um, yeah, I don't know, I feel like I'm gonna end up talking in circles.
That's okay. I
Um,
I think while I let you think about it, I think a lot of creators at that time, they're living and dying on the numbers, right? Like the first 100, the first 1,000, the first 10,000. I think I remember back to some of your videos, and I think those were actually celebration videos for you at some point.
yeah, I definitely remember, like, 100 subscribers, I was living in Boston at the time, which is probably when you found what I was doing. And then like 1,000 was big, 10,000 was big, and then I was like, okay, 50,000, that was pretty big. And the jump from like 10,000 to 100,000, that went really quick. 100,000 was like at the time the most special to me because you get a plaque from YouTube, which at the end of the day doesn't mean anything, but I was like, wow, like look at this tangible thing, like I accomplished this. That's super cool, and, like, my next milestone where that would happen is 1,000,000. Will I ever get there? I don't know. I would like to think someday, but, um, yeah, I just, um, at the end of the day, like, I still make videos for myself. I could grow my channel way quicker if I stuck with one thing, and I was never really into that. Like, when I was making firearm content, that content mixed into my regular stuff took off a little bit more than the other content, so it would get higher views. And then, like, when I'm out in public, people are like, "Oh, you're that gun guy," and I'm like, "Eh." Like, yeah, like, I do that, it's, like, a part of what I'm into, but I don't like being pigeonholed. So even to this day, like, I own vehicles that I love, and I make videos about them, and people are like, "This is so dumb, stop posting videos about this stuff." I'm still making videos for myself, like, it obviously gathers a new audience. So like my views across my channel, they fluctuate a ton because I'll make a video about a sports car, no one cares. And then I'll make a video about a truck that I take on adventures, and I've done that hundreds of times, and that will generally get more because people started coming for the off-road content. So my content's always going to evolve and change, and I try to cater to my audience to an extent of like, okay, you guys want to hear more about this van, so like I'll make some videos about that. But at the end of the day, I'm still making videos just for myself.
Yeah, and I think that's the gold in what creators do. So many creators start off by that of making videos for themselves, but then they start to go down the path of how can I grow the fastest, and then they start to follow other trends and other people. And I think when I was doing research, I think one of the earlier videos that attracted me to your channel, I think at the time I was looking at Subaru Crosstracks, and
Yeah.
that was one of your big channel or your video series where you were building out your cross track. And to watch, you pulled from the Subaru community, and then like the EDC community, obviously the gun community and the beard community. That's just such a powerful thing for a creator to have that audience. And what I noticed is I started to enjoy whatever videos you were putting out, not for the content in the video, but it was for the creator because I think I felt a connection to you. Um, Talk to me about that. That special sauce.
That is special sauce, and that is something that not a lot of people understand, but I strive for that. Like, I could just make videos about EDC stuff. People would love that, and the videos would do really well. But and I talk about this a lot, really not on video, but like with other creators and stuff who are asking me for advice. My main goal early on was, of course, to make videos for myself, but then I realized that like people like you who were following early on ended up like a ton about me, and you know me as a person. So if I am testing a new vehicle or a new tent or a new pocket knife or whatever, if I am organically, which all of my videos, like nothing is scripted, I'm not getting paid to say good things about stuff. But if I say, like, hey, I really like this pocket knife, and you are also into all of the other things that I'm into, then it's not just a content creator saying, like, oh, check out this new product thing. It's like, oh, I'm hearing that from almost a friend's perspective because I know where you live, how you live, what you're into, what you eat, the things that you do. Like you know way more about me. So while my audience size, subscriber wise, is like on, it's not large in the grand scheme of things. It's a healthy channel, I think. But my views don't always reflect that, which again I'm not worried about because the core people who do watch my videos, I'm making videos for myself, but I'm making them for them too because it's like a friendship. Like people who I've never met, I'll come and talk to them in person at a show, and they know so much about me, and I'm like, "Oh, I could totally hang out with this person. Like we have so much in common." So yeah, that's a cool thing that not a lot of people understand.
Yeah, thanks for going deeper in that because that's exactly what I was thinking about is, the people that watch you or even like the Casey Neistats of the world, like they feel such a connection to that person where you almost feel like it's a friend in a way, and it's an outlet. And when you are, talking about a product, it's like, oh, well, if Talon likes that, like, yeah, I would probably like that too because we've got similar interests. And so it's a natural progression.
That's an interesting topic when it comes to working with brands too, because A lot of brands will look at your numbers overall and they're like, "Oh, you have a lot of subscribers, so we want you to test out this product." And I get hundreds of those emails a week and I just say no or don't even reply to most of them. However, if it's a product that I know that I would be interested in, the company is looking at it from, of course, an investment of like sending product, a return on investment of how many people are going to watch and buy. A lot of the times they overlook the fact that like I'm only going to ever talk about things on video that I'm actually stoked on. Like I can't be bought in that aspect. And then when I'm talking about something that I'm stoked on to my audience, it is super organic and it's honest and it's me through and through. And there's people like yourself and other people who watch for me, and that type of opinion holds way more weight than if I'm just saying some really broad stuff in a review and spitting it out to 100,000 people. So that's one thing that like it's hard to put value on that because unless you are a viewer and you understand how that stuff works, like it it gets lost in the mix a lot of times, and I'm not one to sell myself. Like if a company wants to work with me, I'm very strict with like how I do things, and that is a big thing. Like what we just talked about, it's hard to convey that to someone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I think that's probably the same thing when you're saying, "Hey, yeah, you're sponsoring this one video, but it's evergreen content. It's going to be up there for years." And so I think brands have a really hard time conceptualizing what it means to be a creator and what that stuff feels. And you're spot on. People that have followed you, from day one or the early days, they get to know your tendencies, and so they will know if you're promoting something that you truly don't believe in. It's like, oh yeah, this is a sellout right here. This is something he's obviously doesn't care about.
Yeah. And like I'm critical of myself too, which is why I don't take like any kind of product exchange for videos and things like that. There are times though, like obviously my tastes have changed over 10 years of making videos. So I haven't even thought about this before, but there are times where I'm like, typically I don't like that. I've said in the past, I don't like this specific thing. However, I actually do now, and here's why. So I'm like, I don't have to put that stuff in videos. I can just say like I like this, but I find myself doing it naturally because I've put so much of my life out there. Like I guess one thing in particular is like early on, all of my vehicles were black. Like I would never think of owning a white vehicle. And now I own two white vehicles. Like the van that I'm sitting in is white, which is typically not me, but traveling around and being outdoors all the time, especially in the desert, I was like, dang, having a white vehicle would probably be nice for like heat dissipation and stuff. And now I love white vehicles. It's like the most common color out of any vehicle produced. But like, that's just one example of how my thought process has changed. And I went back to like correct myself.
Yeah. It's cool to see like the evolution, and you went from the travel vlogs early on and, outdoor life, car builds, firearms, you're clearly in a van somewhere in a mountain. Um,
Yeah.
what pulls you to go into like a new community or a new venture where, at some point you weren't doing van builds. So like what pulls you into these different communities or different paths?
I think the van aspect was like the biggest new thing that I ever got into, like 7 years ago, however long, or 8 years ago now, I think is when I got my first van. What led me into that was one, I always loved being outdoors. I was working in IT, so I was traveling from city to city every like 6 to 9 months, moving my life. And then I was kind of researching like what van life was. At the time, it wasn't as big as it was. This is before COVID. And then I met today a really good friend of mine who was living in his van full time. And that was when I really got to experience it for a couple days. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I think this was after I recently quit my job. I was already thinking about it, and I was like, I've been saving for a house. I'm gonna buy a van because uh, it just makes more sense. It's the freedom aspect again, like I was talking about in the beginning. So that was a big jump. Like that was a huge purchase for me at the time because again, I'm saving for a house. I had a bunch of money saved from my corporate job, and I was like, I'm gonna take a shot in the dark on this. And I knew making a purchase that big, it was going to force me to want to use that vehicle and go travel and explore, which of course I did. And then that just snowballed over the years into obviously moving out west full time, getting into pickup trucks and other more capable off-road vehicles. So I think just like that itch for adventure and kind of the solitude of it all too. I'm typically a pretty introverted person, which doesn't come across as a content creator, which I'm sure you probably know too. Like I'm doing podcasts, I'm talking to a camera like 24/7, and then people meet me in person in like a group setting, and they're like, "Talon's not talking all that much," because like I'm an observer too. So Um, yeah, venturing into the van space was crazy for me, and it really shaped everything that I do today too. So, I mean, I love everything about sprinter vans and traveling and RV life, basically any kind of vessel that allows you to get outdoors to do other things. Like that's what I'm interested in.
That's awesome. It's so cool to like see the progression of where you're going with different, niches and whatnot. And that's something I'm actually, I don't know if struggle is the right word, but for the last year, this podcast has been just paintball, like the top athletes that are playing at the highest level. And I've wanted to grow bigger and grow outside of that, but it's been like, man, like if I do that, as the audience that I currently have, are they going to leave? It's like you start to tell your stories of like, you almost keep yourself small in a way. Um, like, do you ever go through that when you had the idea of a van or getting into that? And you're like, well, I could make videos about this, but what does this mean for my audience?
Yeah, I go through that quite often. There's definitely some things that I'm interested in that I'm interested in making videos on. I would say 9 times out of 10, I'll just do it, like I talked about, because 'cause I'm not worried about the views and things like that. However, there are some times where I'm like, "You know what? It's probably like, the juice isn't worth the squeeze in some aspects." Um, Being a creator for so long has forced me to try new things because I can't just do the same thing all the time. So kind of like I was talking about being pigeonholed, like you don't want to be pigeonholed into, oh, I'm a paintball podcast. Like you want to have cool conversations with different people. Um, it's a balance, man. Everything is a balance, everything is a hustle, and you just kind of have to pull at straws until you figure out how it works. Maybe, I mean, at the end of the day, you always have to try something new. If it doesn't work, then course correct and try something else. Like it's uh it's a lot of problem solving, a lot of troubleshooting just to kind of keep on progressing.
Yeah, thank you. Well, one, thank you for the advice because it sounds like you're kind of giving me advice that I need to hear. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But it also sounds like for you as a person, I think what I'm learning about you is when you have an idea, you need to go chase it because the idea of chasing it is better than the idea of living with regret of not.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it stems back to like having this opportunity with YouTube. I'm like, "Ooh, I'm making more money for myself now." I'm like, it would kind of be dumb to not try it. Like not put all of my effort into it because it was more split, like, probably 70/30, like, 70% at my corporate job and 30 put into YouTube. But I was like, if I just make that straight to 100%, I can only imagine good things coming out of it. So, yeah, it's always good to try.
Yeah, that's wild. Um, Talk to me a little bit more about the community, because I think nowadays, especially with AI and whatnot, I keep hearing the importance of actual human communities. And you've been sort of the face of, the beard community at some point, gun community at some point. And I think before communities were really a thing, like you were already building those in a way. Like, has that ever sunk in with you?
Maybe not to that extent, but, um, one of the coolest things is, like, I never strived to be a part of a community. It was like everything that I've made videos on, it was just stuff that I was interested in. I've always loved firearms for like the Second Amendment kind of thing, but then the engineering behind them. I like the nerdy aspect of how things work. Same thing with EDC gear. It's like there is a community there, but I guess I was a part of it without even knowing. Like before I even made videos, I always had like random tools in my pocket and stuff. So when I just started sharing my experiences with it and those videos kind of took off, then it kind of pushed me into like the spotlight, so to speak, where it's like a lot of people were watching them. And then I guess in some ways I kind of became like the face of like smaller communities here and there. Um, it's not something I ever like strived for, but I do agree community is super important. One of the best communities that I've been a part of out of everything over the years is not just the van community. The van community is large and very cool, but like the overlanding space as a whole. When I was living in my well, I am living in my van full time again as of like 2 weeks ago. But I was living in a van for like 2.5 years and I traveled the whole country. I went to Canada, I went to Mexico. I met so many like-minded people in person because like the other communities that I talked about was mainly online. I met a ton of these people in person who all shared really cool experiences from their own travels, their own tricks and tips on how to make life easier. So that community to me is really special, and that's one that I'm still like heavily invested in today.
Does that feel different from other communities where you're kind of pushed into being the face of the community, where I think people almost look at you as a celebrity, and so when they see you, I'm sure they're treating you differently from just having like a normal conversation like this?
Yeah, the in-person community obviously is it's very important. Like internet communities are great too, but one thing that I find is like the EDC community, the firearm community, mainly those two which I've been in pretty heavily, they are very consumer based. So they're very like it's consumerism, it's buying new things and trying new things, which is cool. Like I like gadgets and stuff like that. Whereas the overlanding community is more about experiences and sharing stories around a campfire with someone. So um being the face of a community, kind of like the EDC community, don't get me wrong, it's really cool and I enjoy it. I like collaborating with companies to make products that I find interesting. But at the end of the day, it seems too transactional for me. Like actual monetary transactions. Like people are obsessing over gear and things like that, which is cool. Overlanding, as long as you have a vehicle, it doesn't matter what vehicle is, you're going to be pretty much welcomed and you can share your stories. And there's gear to talk about and like things that people it will make their life easier, but the end goal for that is really to just enjoy the outdoors, enjoy public lands, national parks, and just live life as free as you possibly can.
Yeah, I think you go from the tangible product becomes the story versus the actual like story and the journey is the story at that point.
Yeah, like I can make videos on pocket knives all day,
Yeah,
but unless I had a part of like designing it and building it, there's really no other story to tell there.
yeah,
So it's just like, here's this cool thing, and this is why I wanted it to be this way. But then it kind of ends there. Like, sure, it's a tool, and you may use it on trips, and you may end up gathering stories with that thing, which is when like an item becomes sentimental.
yeah,
But vehicle wise, like if I I didn't do a ton of camping in my cross track, but like that vehicle was fairly inexpensive compared to the type of vehicles that I'm into now. I loved that vehicle. I made a bunch of videos, which you obviously saw. They did really well, and I have sentimental ties to stuff like that because of the places that I've been in that vehicle. But at the end of the day, it's about those experiences. It's not about the materialistic thing.
yeah. That makes total sense. I think over the last 10 years, you've obviously gone through a bunch of different communities in your journey. Talk to me about burnout because I think every creator, whether they admit it or not, will have spouts of burnout at some point. So, like, how do you juggle that, especially with running the business that you are too?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of creators' videos who experience burnout, like people that I personally would watch on YouTube back in the day. Um, I don't know if I've ever fully experienced it to an extent of like making a video about it. I think because my content is so diverse, I get burnt out on specific topics and things. Um, my like the firearm stuff again, like that was on my main channel, moved it to a channel of its own, and then it that again became too transactional. I was just reviewing a product. It's repetitive. Like I could make those videos really quickly and like people enjoy them, but I get burnt out on like not really telling a story. Like sure, I love reviewing stuff too, don't get me wrong, but it becomes like an office job. I go to the range, I do my thing, I come back, I edit, I post that video. Whereas my more like vlog life experiences, overlanding videos, I'm constantly getting into new things and sharing new experiences, eating at new places, visiting new national parks and cities and things like that. So I don't think I've ever experienced full burnout the way some creators have described it on their own. Um, and what's good about the way I do things is if I am feeling burnt out on something in particular, I just pivot and do something else. When it comes to the repetitive workload, like all of these videos need to be shot by me and edited by me, uploaded, processed, everything by me. That stuff can get tedious for sure. I can feel a little burnt out. Like there are times where I'm like, man, I really don't want to film a video today, but I need a video for this week. So I feel the stress of that, but again, that's stress that I put on myself. I haven't missed a weekly upload in 10 years, and there's no it's crazy, but that's like what I pride myself on. I'm like, "Hey, people have come to my channel and they want to see what I'm doing and like doesn't really matter what it is. I'm still going to post a video. I'm going to be there for the audience that I've grown over this time." So, it can definitely feel like burnout um, when it's a lot of repetitive work. But yeah, I think I have it set up in a way where I can pivot and just kind of work through it creatively.
Yeah, that's actually really good advice, and I don't think I've necessarily ever heard that because I've obviously watched a lot of videos on burnout, and I've talked to people who have been burnt out in whatever journey it is that they're on. But to hear you say, when I recognize that, I just pivot, like that's solid advice for people to take away from that.
Yeah, that's probably good advice for you in particular. Like you don't want to be pigeonholed into I'm a paintball podcast. So like I'm sure you interview and do podcasts with a lot of people in the industry, but then you get someone like me who's really outside that norm. And this is you pivoting. It's like, hey, we're getting new experiences and new stories about something else.
Yeah.
Maybe your core audience doesn't care about me and don't know me and they don't like maybe it's not for them, but at least you're doing it. This is something fresh for you. And as long as you like it, that'll keep you from burning out.
Yeah, thanks for saying that because the past few months of from the last season to this season, like thinking about, man, I really want to like go after this, but I'm nervous to. I think that the push of not doing it faster pushed me into burnout. And it showed up in my podcast. Like I would go back and watch it, and I'm like, man, I'm just not into that episode. And then the second I made the decision to like, you know what, I'm gonna jump into this and take this leap of bringing on outside guests and turn this podcast from a paintball podcast to now the stories of people and the why behind people. Like I feel the fire again. Like I am so excited to like jump into this. I can't wait to edit this episode after. It's like I feel that excitement to create again.
That's good. That's the hardest thing because like being creative, it takes a lot more brain power than people think.
Yeah,
My wife is a nurse and she'll come home with like a million patients, have a really hard day. And then I don't like, I want to have empathy. And I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, like I just I did all of this stuff today. And it's hard for someone who doesn't work in a creative field to understand like how much brain power you're using. And I mean, physical too, like you're podcasting is a little different, but like and I'm not complaining about what I do
yeah,
either. I'm just saying it is a lot of work and it may not seem like that because the only thing that my audience sees is the highlight reels.
yeah.
They see everything when it's done. They don't see all the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, and, like, to not miss an upload in 10 years, like, that is you're just constantly thinking and planning and working, and, like, there's literally always something to be doing to not miss an upload.
And then real life on top of that too.
Yeah.
Like everything else in real life. Like I'm just talking about this. I mean, it's a main portion of my life, but
Yeah.
like recently selling my house and moving all of our stuff and tax season's coming up and doctor's appointments and like all of this stuff is on top of the crazy workload of like working for yourself too. So it's yeah, it's a crazy life, but I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah, and you mentioned we only see the highlight reel, right? And every couple goes through this where like you argue and you have fights with your significant other, but like that also adds to the stress of like, man, I was going to shoot something today or I was going to plan this, but like now I'm dedicating time because we obviously have to get over this argument. It's like that
Yeah.
just adds to all of it.
That's a really good point too, because like there are times like I mean, my wife and I have a great relationship, but before I start filming a video in the morning, like I'm kind of like again, I don't script anything, but I'm running through scenarios in my head, especially like I'm actually filming a video today. I'm like halfway through the video
Oh
of
wow.
just like a regular vlog. So, um like the last thing I said, I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be doing a podcast in a little bit and then we're going to go camp." And I like already laid out kind of my day in my head of like what I'm going to film and what I'm going to shoot. But then you mix in like relationship stuff on top of that. I really have to like psych myself up in the morning. I can't just like wake up, turn on a camera, and then be ready to go. Um, so yeah, that adds a whole nother dynamic to it as well.
Yeah, and that's just something that I think the normal audience doesn't think about. It's like you live this magical, perfect life that we see for 8 or 10 minutes every week, and it's like this guy's living the dream, but we don't think about some of the other stuff. um, you've traveled all over the U.S. and the better parts of the North America. What's something you've learned about yourself? Going through the whole entire country at this point. Like, what did it teach you about you?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm always kind of learning new things. I guess I I would go back to the whole thing of like I really do enjoy solitude. I really like camping. Obviously, I camp all the time. But at the same time, I do love experiencing new things. So like when we go to new places, like I think my biggest trip last year was we spent about a month on the road and we went up to Alaska. We went to the Arctic Ocean. Each day, maybe like 2 times a day, we would visit a new city. We're trying new food. We're talking with local people. And it just really opens my eyes to like one, how insignificant we are. Like there's so many people in this world living their own separate lives with different cultures and experiences, and the more you learn about other people and other cultures and places, and I'm really just talking about like North America, between like Mexico to Canada and Alaska, and then obviously the lower 48. It's just really cool to see how diverse, especially this part of the world is. And yes, I would want to travel abroad more, like Europe and other places in the future, but there's just so much to see here. It's so diverse that it kind of makes like any problem that I'm having feel pretty insignificant because you see people of all different walks of life. So, I don't know how it makes me really feel about like what I've learned about myself personally, other than like I'm just it makes me extra thankful for what I'm able to do, and very appreciative of the life that I'm living. And it also kind of makes me think like it's almost like imposter syndrome at some points because I'm like, do I really deserve to be doing all this stuff? And then luckily with what I do, I look back through 1,000 plus videos and I'm like, okay, you know what? I do deserve this experience. Like, um, I've put in a lot of work. So it's I don't know. That's a good question. That's an interesting topic.
Yeah. No, I feel that at my core. A few weeks ago at this point, I was in Tampa Bay, and we had the first paintball event of the season inside of the stadium where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play. And so to be one inside of a football stadium on the field is something that most will never have. And I won photographer of the year for the third year in the row. And
Oh
so like
wow.
walking on stage, like the fans, my name was on the Jumbotron. It was just the most surreal experience of what you just said of like, wow, do I actually deserve this? Like, this is such a wild moment. And then I look
Yeah.
back, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I've posted content every single day, like I'm consistent. But that voice is it's always there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's cool.
I've had a question I've wanted to ask you for a while, even before I had this podcast, like back when I was just watching your videos years ago. If you had 1 week left to live, you knew that next week, end of life, what's the last video you'd make?
Oh man, I would wanna say, like, a big compilation video of everything that I've done, but those videos are so difficult to make. So, on my 10-year video, I was thinking about doing that. I was thinking, like, let me pull some highlights from videos over the past 10 years and put them all together in a montage, but I think you said you watched that video. Instead, I made, like, a pretty big announcement in that video, and I was like, "Hey, this is where I started. I rolled in a couple clips of like my first video, and then I was like, fast forward to 10 years, and I'm at a point now where like if you want to know about me, you can go back and watch everything that's there. It's all there. A way to celebrate 10 years, I was like, I'm moving into this whole new chapter of life now. And I didn't plan it this way, but it's cool that it happened this way. So the announcement in that was I sold my house in Colorado, full-time van life again, building a new house, a shop on some property. And that is like the next chapter. And I'm in the middle of all of that right now. So life is pretty crazy, but um I think I would do something similar to that. I would definitely travel. Like I don't think I would do much different. I would probably go back east and see my immediate family because most of my family's back there. Obviously, spend time with them. Um, but I wouldn't really reflect as much. I would just kind of like celebrate where I'm at right now. Be like, hey, this is like all my videos will hopefully live on the internet forever. And then I don't know, kind of lay out a message of I don't even know what my message would be. Um, just kind of like a lot of mixed thoughts about like the things that we're talking about right now, like enjoying what you do in life, not taking yourself so seriously, living free, not caring so much about other people's opinions, like just that's a really good question, and I think that's kind of the route that I would go.
Yeah, that's a beautiful answer. It's one of those questions where like you'll hear people will ask it on their deathbed and they say a lot of the similar things that you mentioned, but until you're actually asked that question and you're forced to answer it, like your brain almost goes in a different direction. And so it's cool to hear how you answer it is very similar to your brand and who you are as a person.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's jump into the business a little bit. I think a few years ago, you announced that Side Productions was now a new thing, and I think you had a an office space or a studio at the time, and that was to build bigger than the YouTube channel. Talk to me about that side of content creation and that side of the business.
Yeah, so when I quit my job, and started making YouTube videos full time, I didn't have like a business plan, so to speak. I was just like YouTube was good, so I was just kind of going off into the unknown. And then I did have an office space, which I rented in the Denver area. And that is soon after that is when I decided I was like, hey, maybe we should build a house here, which we ended up doing. Um, the side productions thing was honestly a way to legitimize what I was doing from a business perspective, but like instead of talking to my financial advisor and CPA and stuff like that, like they're like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I make YouTube videos," which I don't even really say that anymore. Like someone can ask me in conversation what I do for a living, and my answer is probably going to be different depending on the conversation we had leading up to that. Um, so side productions nowadays, well, it started as a way to legitimize like the YouTube content creation space, which is a murky area to begin with. But now it's evolved into not a full-blown production company because it is just me, but I offer my services of what I've learned over the past 10 years making content for myself. I kind of offer what I've learned as a professional service for other people who need YouTube videos for their business or product photography for their website. Or I don't really do like SEO and ads like Google ads and things like that, but I can create content for that type of marketing. So it's definitely grown into kind of a mixture of media and marketing now. Um, and yeah, that's kind of where it stands as of right now.
Yeah, I think that sounds similar to like what Peter McKinnon kind of dabbled into, where obviously he has his channel that is insanely well, but he does a lot with corporations on the side to help you know their content. It's not necessarily his that he's putting on his channel, but he's creating content for these companies as well.
Yeah, I became friends with Pete a couple years ago, and I don't talk to him a ton, so I can't really like call him a mentor, but he is one early on, like him and Casey Neistat. Casey Neistat in particular, I was watching his vlogs when he was growing like crazy,
Daily
and
vlog.
that's really what kind of pushed me to go, oh, you know what? Like my life's kind of interesting right now. I'm traveling around, working in different cities all the time. So a lot of my early content was really inspired by him. But then talking with other creators, especially larger ones, I try to pick their brain on how they run their thing as a business. And people come to me too asking advice. And the best thing that I can say is that you have to take everything with a grain of salt. So many people, like a friend called me the other night and he was like, yo, everyone's been telling me to start a YouTube channel. So here's this plan that I have, blah, blah, blah. And I will give advice, but at the end of the day, what works for me is not going to work for him. I can give you some advice, but it may lead you in the completely wrong direction just because your audience is different, your type of content is different. So, that's one of the things that bothers me about like people who really love motivational speakers, like Gary Vaynerchuk, as an example. I had a friend who went down the rabbit hole and was like reposting all of his content and stuff like this. And he's getting super stoked and motivated on all of this new stuff, but he's not taking action. And that is one of my biggest pet peeves when people ask me for advice in this space. I'm an open book. I'll tell you everything with the preface of like, what works for me may not work for you. But if I spend hours talking to you and giving you advice and you don't implement that, that bothers me so much. Cause like I'm not charging for giving friends advice and stuff like that, but I'm like, dude, you asked me for all this help and you're not even trying anything that I said. So like, oh, that irks me.
I'm right there with you. That's like in the top of my list for things that drive me nuts. I'll have so many people reach out to me and, hey, how do I become a photographer? How do I, do what you're doing and like be at the top of, paintball? And I'll give advice and then I see the people not taking it. And so I've changed it where it's like, hey, you know what? Almost exactly what you're doing is I can give you advice, but then you're following my path. You're not creating
Yeah.
your own path. And so I've switched it to now, whatever you do, just be consistent with it. Because what I've learned is when you're
Yes.
consistent with it, the path is going to go either way and you're going to keep learning throughout that.
Exactly. That's the same advice I give too. Cause like when you're not consistent and you're only say you want to make YouTube videos, if you're only uploading once a month or like once every other month, you're not getting enough repetitions to figure out where you went wrong or how you could improve. A video may completely flatline and not do well. And I still practice this today. Like I said, I'm making videos on stuff that I know my audience probably doesn't care about, but maybe one of those hits and I'm stoked on the content. And if it hits, then I'm like, okay, I can do more of that. And not missing a weekly upload for 10 years has allowed me to make those pivots to avoid burnout, to venture into new things that I may be interested in. And yeah, consistency, as cliche as that sounds, is super key to actually seeing any kind of improvement.
Yeah. I mean, you can take that one piece of advice and drop it into anything, back to IT, running, exercise, whatever it is. Like consistency is the root of any success.
Exactly. Yep. Couldn't agree more.
If we look ahead, how do you measure like your personal growth, or creativity in life? I think most people that are working in a corporate job, there's sales figures, there's you're meeting with your manager, they're giving you their yearly review. But as a creator, like no one's meeting with you to say, "Hey, great job."
Yeah, from like just like the YouTube kind of thing, the good job, so to speak, really comes from the audience. Like I still to this day read almost every single comment on all of my platforms. I definitely don't respond to all of them, but that was one of the biggest shifts going from IT to full-time content creation. Like in an IT world or any desk job, you do your job as expected and you don't get a thanks. You get a, okay, here's the next thing. When you do something wrong, then they come to you and say, hey, why, like, what is going on here? Like, this needs to be fixed. So, couple that with making content in my free time when I was doing both. I would have that experience at my corporate job, go home, make a video, post it, and then immediately get like 5, 10 comments like, oh, dude, that's so sick. Thanks for sharing, blah, blah, blah. That to me was so fulfilling. So I guess with the business side of things, I definitely kind of judge performance on, this sounds bad, but like monetary. Like, am I doing enough work where I can sustain the life that I want to live? Can I make enough money to save and invest in my business and myself personally for the future? So that is definitely more of the business side of things, but then creatively speaking, um, I really pride myself on like staying consistent. I look back at my catalog of videos and like there's some videos that I absolutely love, and then there's some that I completely forget about. But at the end of the day, if I'm not making videos, someone else is, and that's really what drives me to continue being consistent and improving myself every year.
Yeah, I appreciate the honesty because I think a lot of creators won't necessarily answer that question that way. Where at the end of the day, like if it's not putting money in your wallet, like you're not going to do this, even though it's creativity, it's passion, it's fun. But at the end of the day, it is a business, right? And so, like, if it's not a sustainable business, you're going to pivot.
Yeah.
So, I really
Well,
appreciate that transparency.
well, that might have come out a little bit wrong on my end. I'm referring to side productions as a business. Like,
I see.
and do I have enough clients and am I making enough money to continue my fun stuff, which is my channel, my YouTube videos?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I honestly don't make a ton of money off of YouTube anymore. Like YouTube ad revenue is super low. It's down. Sorry about that. I'm getting a phone call. YouTube ad revenue is pretty low, and at the end of the day, I'm always going to make videos because I enjoy doing it. Um, but the business side of things, like that is what sustains me living my life the way that I do and allows me to make content for free for my audience on YouTube. So, um, I kind of look at those two things as pretty separate at this point.
That's thanks for the explanation. 'Cause I think a lot of creators go down the path of, YouTube is now my full-time job. And then obviously with everything with AdSense changing, people have to pivot or then start doing sponsored content. And so it's cool to see that, Side Productions has this one thing so this channel can still be genuine and it can still be about you.
Yeah, like if my YouTube channel went away tomorrow, I would be devastated because that's all of my work and it's what I love doing. But I would still be able to continue living my life shooting things for the clients that I work with. That's one thing too, like a channel my size, you see a ton of people doing ad spots like, hey, this video is brought to you by whoever, which I don't do often. I'm not above that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I feel like it cheapens content overall. So I'll only work with a company in that aspect if it's something that one, I already use, I truly believe in, and if it's something that I think my audience could actually gain some kind of benefit from. So I mean, companies hit me up all the time. They're like, hey, we want to sponsor a video. And I'm like, that's cool, but it's just not the way that I really work. I would rather take what that company needs, marketing wise and shoot content for them to use however they want, but I don't really want to deliver that to my audience.
Yeah, I feel that because I've also seen that shift in YouTube too, where I can almost like there's a lot of creators that I have liked personally over the years. And now if I see a particular thumbnail or how it's packaged, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get sold something here. Like this, you're just gonna try to push something on me at some point.
Yeah, that's what's hard for me too, like doing so many reviews on gear and vehicles and things like EDC stuff because I I really like if a video is sponsored, I make it clear that it's sponsored. Otherwise, maybe the product was sent to me, but I'm not going to make a video on it just because it was sent to me. Like I'm going to make a video on it because I think it's sick. Like I it's something that I'm using. Like I would never I can't think of maybe really early on I've done this, but I don't do this anymore. Like if someone does send me something, a lot of people will unbox it, talk about it, and kind of review it right then and there. I'm the opposite of that. I'm like, you can send me stuff if you want. And then if I think it's a good product and it's something that I could recommend so that my audience could benefit from this thing in some way, then I'll incorporate it in my content. Um, but it's just kind of like integrity. I don't know. I just try to keep things as honest as possible, and making reviews all the time can definitely get people burnt out. They're like, "Oh, you're just trying to sell something." At the end of the day, I'm really not. I don't care. Like if I review something, even if I have an affiliate code or if a company is sponsoring and is paying me for it, I don't care if you buy it or not. If you buy it and hopefully you like it and it benefits you, great. Then I probably have another opportunity to work with that company more in the future. But if you don't buy it, I really don't care. And I've told companies this to their face before. Like I worked with a tent company and we were talking about affiliate programs and stuff like that. And I told the owner of the company, I was like, I run your product a lot and I have a discount code where people can save money and stuff in my descriptions. I don't care if they buy your product or not. I'm using it because I enjoy it and I think it is a good product, but at the end of the day, I am not selling stuff to people. I'm just putting information out there so people can make an informed decision when they're in the market for a rooftop tent or whatever it may be. Um, but yeah, that's kind of hard to battle sometimes with just like negative comments.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Oh yeah.
You know, if we look forward into this year, what's one of the things that you're most excited to either explore, like creatively, or create video wise?
Can't give too much away, but there is something really big coming. Two really big things coming. The one I can't talk about at all. The other one would be building this future house, and not so much like homesteading, but I want to document building this new home and this new shop because the shop portion of this is where I'm going to work. Like I'm building in an office, I'm building in a full tool rack and everything. And like I'm going to have this space that is my own, that is perfect size to work out of. So that's what I'm looking forward to most. I don't know when that stuff will happen because I'm still going through a lot of the legal side of things, the money side of things to make it work. But that is definitely what I'm most excited for because it's going to open up a new chapter for me, like I mentioned, in a new location. There's going to be new people. I'll probably work with new companies. It'll just be a new way of living for me. And it's really going to evolve my content into something that's not completely out of left field. Like I'm always doing install videos and like kind of DIY how-to stuff here and there on vehicles. So it's just going to allow me more creative freedom to kind of dive more into that space and maybe like again, not a homesteading style channel, but like I can talk about putting a solar array on my property to like things like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It's the national. I mean, I think we've talked about it a lot in this podcast. It's the natural pivot of where your life is going to go, and you're pivoting your content with that. And I think that's part of some of your day one followers that have enjoyed being a follower of you is they just enjoy where your path is going and watching what's next for you and how you sometimes handle that. Like buying your first vehicle or house. Some of your followers are probably, wow, I'm about to go through that too. What was Talon's experience?
Yeah, and there's people who kind of want me to get into that stuff too, so they have something more in common with me. Like one of the biggest things, which I hate the comments, but people are always like, "When are you gonna have a kid?" because like it just got married like 6 months ago or whatever, and that I again I don't like that question,
Yeah,
but I understand where it's coming from because they want to see how I would handle life with a kid. How would I continue camping and doing the things that I do with a little one in the mix?
yeah,
So I definitely understand how big life changes for me can relate to existing audience and then open to a new audience as well. And I put so much of my life on the internet already, so it just makes sense to kind of make that pivot and say like, hey, the old stuff that I did do, I'm going to try to keep it around if you guys want to see it, but also I'm doing this new thing too.
yeah. So you're almost letting your audience know, like, hey, this is the direction we're going, and you can come for the ride or not.
Yeah, that's really how I am. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I would hope that if you follow me, you would be stoked for me. There are times where I like announce stuff and people are like, "Oh, we missed the old you," and I'm like,
yeah.
"Well,
Unsubscribe.
the
Yeah.
old me is was at a different point in life, so it is what it is."
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the answer. It's like, it's almost pockets of friends in a way, right? Where, like, you're gonna go through pockets of friends in your life, and so thank you for being on this journey, and now you get
That's
to
a
choose to go elsewhere.
That's a really good way to describe it because all of my current like core friend group that I consider really close friends, like I'm still friends with a lot of people from back in the day, but the ones I'm closest with now are all business owners, content creators, people doing their own thing, working for themselves. We can share stories, kind of like what we're talking about now on how you run your business, what works for you, here's what works for me, or what doesn't work. The conversations are more meaningful. It's not just like, high school buddies or college buddies where all you had in common was going to the bar on the weekend. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and I love that. Um, I'm excited for this question, and I want to see where you go with it. What's a video idea that you've been afraid to make, and like, what's the why behind it?
Ooh, afraid to make. Um, I would say anything like hot topic related. There's a lot of channels that like when something's going on in the world, like I mean, you could directly relate it to like politics. An election's coming up, like people want to incorporate that stuff in their videos to get clicks and to gain views, and whether it's good or bad, it's like any publicity is good publicity even if it's bad. um I wouldn't say I'm afraid of that, I just know better that I will not talk won't talk politics or religion, like stuff that you wouldn't talk about at a bar. I try to keep like my really personal life pretty private and off of like everything that I do. The reason for that is because if you watch like let's just talk politics as much as I don't like it. I don't like talking politics because there is never a good outcome unless both sides are open for conversation. So if you watch through what I've done over the years, you can probably figure out where I stand on certain things, but also there are some things that might surprise people on where I stand. So putting my opinion out there, it there's it's a double-edged sword. There's really no good outcome overall. You could really please half of your audience and you could really piss off the other half of your audience and vice versa. So, I that's the one thing that I really steer clear from. I really only like talking about things that one, if I'm exploring something new, that's cool, and I'll kind of share my experience. Or two, something that I feel like I have enough knowledge and information on where I can put out informed opinions that really aren't controversial. Um, so I think that's kind of where I stand on that.
Yeah, that's a great answer, and I think, not to go down the rabbit hole, but I remember back to when the whole Sunday Gunday stuff was going down, where I think your channel got demonetized or whatever. Like, you almost were going through some of that in a way where I could see the
Yeah.
struggle. Where, like, you're like, man, I want to talk about this because, like, I need to share it, but also the reservation of you don't.
Yeah, I my channel got pulled from the partner program. It was reinstated and then pulled again and then reinstated, and it is kind of, it's not really political because YouTube is a private platform and I respect that. But then it riles up a specific part of the audience who's like, oh, screw them, like, go to this platform where there is no censorship and so on and so forth. And I really don't have those conversations in video because again, it's like it's a double-edged sword. You're never going to come out ahead in those situations. And then people get mad at me too when I don't voice my opinion on things that are going on in the world. And like recently, with how crazy a lot of things in America has been, like I'll get DMs from people and they're like, all this stuff just happened and you're not even going to talk about it. You're just talking about camping. And I'm like, yeah, because like, one, if you watch my videos, you probably know how I feel about this specific thing that you're asking me. And two, it's either going to piss people off or like there's just no reason for me to comment on that. I am not politically intelligent enough to make informed decisions for other people, and people who make that content are like basically saying like this is facts, this is why this is good and this is bad. And I'm like, it's cool to inform. It goes back to taking advice from other business owners. It's like take everything that you read and watch with a grain of salt, apply it to your own situation. You can't believe everything you see and hear on the internet. And yeah, that's I mean, we could talk about that for a while.
Yeah, totally. No, that's a beautiful answer. So thanks for like, dabbling in it a little bit. I've got one more question for you, and this is one like that's really I think driven this podcast is, I bring people on and I talk about their profession and whatnot, but it's the bigger part that people really resonate with, and it's the why behind the person. So like, what's the why behind Talon Sei? Like, what's the stuff that's deep that fuels you, that motivates you to keep doing what you're doing?
I think it goes back to, I mean, everything we just talked about. It's really the freedom of living a life where I can do what I want when I want. I get to experience new things and share experiences with people who maybe I've known for forever, and then maybe some new people come into the mix too. Um, I make videos for myself, and I'm very thankful that I was able to build the audience that I have over the years. Um, there's there's really no other thing that I could picture myself doing now after having the taste of freedom and everything that I've experienced over the years. I just can't imagine living like a quote unquote normal life. Back what I was doing, going into work at 9, coming home at 5, like that's just not for me.
Yeah, great answer. Yeah, it's funny you say that because like when you and I were going back and forth on, we moved up the podcast time today, and I was like, yeah, I've got a few meetings to wrap up at my normal job. I'm like, wait a minute, like that's my normal job, but like this is your normal job.
Yeah.
I was like, what do I say there in that instead?
No, I get it though, because I've luckily lived both lives, so I can kind of speak from experience, and I can relate better. That's another thing too. Like with everything that I have experienced, especially all of the places that I've been, I can probably relate to most people in some way, shape, or form, especially like the location thing. I've camped in every single state in the US and traveled a little bit outside. So like I meet someone on the road and they're like, "Oh, I'm from this city." And I'm like, "Oh, I've been there. I've been to this restaurant and blah blah blah." So it's like it's cool to have so many experiences that I've gained over the years. And it just makes like communicating and networking a whole lot easier because I've experienced so much in the time that I've been able to do this.
Yeah, which is crazy because like earlier on you said you're an introvert, but all of those experiences actually make you a better extrovert and easy to talk to.
Yeah, I mean, early on, I was definitely I was more introverted early on,
Yeah,
but now I'm better at putting on an extrovert front
yeah.
because I can relate to people. That I haven't thought about it that way, but yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's a cool experience where I've always associated like I'm a an introverted extrovert, maybe I have that backwards, but it's like I am, introverted, but then also with conversations like this, they feel natural.
Totally.
Like after this, like my energy will be spent and I'll be tired and
Yeah.
doing it, which I'm sure is the same thing from, talking to a camera all day too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, man, Talon, this has been so cool. If you told me 8 or 10 years ago, and when I was watching you, you're just trying to find motivation in my life, that I'd have you on my podcast at some point, and just learning about you and learning about you as a person, behind the creator. It's just been a really cool full circle moment for me, and I hope the audience that has followed you for years, they find this and they can get a deeper understanding of you too, because I think a lot of questions that you've answered here you haven't really talked about publicly before.
Yeah, this podcast has been refreshing because a lot of times, like, people open with kind of your initial, like, you worked in IT, now you do YouTube, and then they just kind of stay on that for the whole time. And I feel like a broken record. So I appreciate the questions you've asked. They've been awesome. And it definitely, like, again, I'm an open book. I like talking about this stuff. I just have to be prompted with the correct thing, like what is actually valuable to talk about and tell people rather than repeating the same thing over and over again.
Yeah,
So
because
yeah, this was great.
I appreciate that. Yeah, one of the worst things I can hear as a podcast host is, "Oh yeah, I've answered that question before." I'm like, "Oh gosh, I should have done more research on it."
Yeah, no, this was great, man. I appreciate everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and to everyone else, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Shellda podcast, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.